Oh, that came in a little hot. There we go. Hey, what's up? How's it going? How y'all doing? Good morning. Welcome to the cryptocurrency mining show. Do we usually just drop the currency part of the crypto? Whatever. Welcome to the crypto mining show, your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news. Today, we are going to be talking, about politics. So if that offends you and you don't like it and that sort of thing, you've been forewarned. We're going to be talking about basically the federal government coming after essentially the Texas power grid, which I think it's very important to point out that the entire reason the Texas power grid is not connected to the rest of the U.S. power grid is because it doesn't want federal oversight, just to be clear. But that is happening in a roundabout way. We have Senator Elizabeth Warren essentially requesting that ERCOT provide them information packaged in a manner that makes mining look bad, be sent to them. And then essentially when ERCOT is like, no, it was actually good, they're like, no, we need you to repackage that. That's essentially what's going on right now. It's an absolute circus show, in my humble opinion. It's ridiculous. We're also going to be taking a look at Bitcoin going down after, of course, the drops after the recent CPI reports, which, of course, look, guys, that means in what? November is the next time we hike rates? I always forget how this works. Is it November, December, right? December, we're going to hike rates up again, something like that. So really, it's not too far off from what we talked about yesterday, where the actual bottom of Bitcoin could be around November or December. And then we'll talk about Ethereum becoming deflationary for the first time. And obviously, that's not really helping them out much, unfortunately, in price because, I guess the CPI data means more. We're still just going to be on this path of asking the question of, is Bitcoin really a hedge against inflation? By how much? If we look at the price, it's really it's not even really dipping. The rest of the market, sure, but Bitcoin not. Well, and we'll talk about that too. We have RTX 4090 hash rates thanks to Rapid Mining. And then thanks to chat, of course, Rapid Mining also has revealed that the latest Nvidia drivers are apparently just fully unlocking all the LHR cards. So I don't know how true that is, to be honest. I'd have to go watch the video, but definitely go check out Rapid Mining. If you check out the link in the description, it will link to the 4090 testing that Rapid Mining did. And then you can just click over to his main channel and check out the light hash rate unlock video that he just did this morning. So want to make sure we get a shout out to Mr. Rapid for all of that. And then we have a ton of release information. Also, Nvidia Hopper information as well, because we got the Hopper H100, which are simply insane, coming from WCCF Tech. We have announcements coming from Flux in regards to geolocation. And then we have BZ Miner with a release, LOL Miner with a release, and G Miner with a release. So the GPU mining scene is looking healthier than ever from a hardware and software perspective here on this beautiful Thursday. However, of course, the profitability is still not looking good. We'll talk about all of that and more right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is BT Miners. Purchasing mining equipment online can be dangerous. With all of the fake storefronts and scams, it can be hard to find a reliable source. That's why when BT Miners reached out for a channel sponsorship, I started by verifying that ordering and delivery went smoothly with the purchase of my own. If you are looking to purchase ASICs hardware from Bitcoin to Dogecoin miners, they are available for purchase on bt-miners.com. BT Miners is a trusted source by both ASICMinerValue.com and CryptoMiner.com. Follow the affiliate link in the description and tell them SOT sent you to support the channel. Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. So first things first, I am hearing something about T-Rex in chat, but I can't confirm that via their GitHub right now. So sorry, maybe I'm missing something. We do have a new release from G Miner came out yesterday, and they added heavy hash, which is obviously the modified heavy hash algorithm utilized by Caspa, and that is for Nvidia GPUs only right now. Then from LOL Miner, also releasing a new version yesterday, 1.61. They slightly improved performance of Flux mining on Nvidia Ampere and Turing cards by approximately 1.5 to 2.5% compared to the 1.60. They improved system memory footprint when mining Flux or Beam on Nvidia GPUs. And this allows running the solvers on more than 8 GPUs with only 4 gigabytes system memory. And the speed exposed by API is now smooth, so especially on all Equihash-based algorithms, the hash rate figures derived from API values will appear more smooth. And then some fixes. They fixed a bug causing Flux mining on NVIDIA Pascal GPUs to not work. And they fixed a bug causing stale shares being counted as defect shares in the API and not correctly exposed in Miner UI as well. So that's pretty much everything as far as that's concerned. Finally, we have BZ Miner released 20 hours ago. And we already talked about version 12.0. Then they had a hotfix for 12.0.1. So adding in just a couple fixes here. On that one, they fixed duplicate shares issues in dual plus radiant combos. And in 12.0.2, they added support for 40 series NVIDIA GPUs. And then, so there you go. Like basically 2 small little add-ins for BZ Miner as far as all that is concerned. So next we have Flux and their geolocation. So if you guys aren't familiar, Flux is trying to essentially be Web 3.0, move over everything to Web 3 infrastructure that would include geolocation. So this is supposed to be launched within the next day or so. We'll give you a little bit of an overview of it, of course. Flux is now ready to deploy geolocation 2.0. Increasing the features and utility of the Flux network is vital to create an attractive package for clients and to increase the rate of Web 3 adoption. With the addition of the new and improved geolocation 2.0, Flux can now provide more geographically targeted dApp deployments for its clients. Flux is building a Flux decentralized alternative to Web 2, cloud hosting, and computing. Flux is a full infrastructure and development blockchain service solution that offers clients a way to run on Web3 infrastructure as an alternative to centralized providers such as AWS, Google Cloud, or Microsoft Azure. The Flux decentralized computational network is the largest of its kind, and it consists of around 15,500 nodes distributed across the world. Of course, like we always like to mention, not all nodes are created the same. You have varying types of CPUs and varying, speeds of memory and speeds of storage. But overall, still very strong, 104,000 CPUs. That is going to count like single CPU on a multi-threaded system. So, if you have a Ryzen 5 5600X that's running on the network, that's going to be, essentially count as 12 CPUs. 287 terabytes of RAM and 6.5 petabytes of storage worth of infrastructure for the decentralized internet or Web 3. Flux is always working hard to increase the network's utility by adding to the feature set of the Flux OS, the operating system of the Flux network. On the Flux roadmap for Q3 of 2022, some key additions planned are the Titan nodes and geolocation 2.0. As you guys may know, I'm not super interested in Titan nodes here personally on this channel. Obviously, for the people that are investing node-wise, that may be more interesting. Obviously, the technology here for geolocation 2 is something I'm personally more interested in. So Titan nodes were already launched, though, so that has already also been covered. But now it's time to cover the launch for the geolocation 2.0. At the beginning of 2022, Flux added their first iteration of geolocation to the Flux network. This feature enabled clients to choose which region and country to deploy their decentralized apps. Obviously, this is a big deal, not only for gaming servers or connectivity, even to a website, right? Let's say a majority of your clients are going to be in the US. You want to be able to service them better. But you know, if you are looking at spinning up even a node for yourself to mine to, because obviously they've added a ton of different nodes in their marketplace, just like Handshake, which we talked about yesterday. Speaking of which, I believe Poolin has stopped support for Handshake too. I'm like a squirrel. Sorry, that happened. I got an email. But you're going to want to have better connectivity, obviously, to that node as a user of that node. So obviously geolocation is going to be important. So with the addition of it, you can deploy dApps to specific regions or even cities within countries. So before you could do basically countries, now you can do in regions, now you can do or not regions, but now you can do regions and cities within countries, which is awesome. So they go through the benefits. I kind of already gave you guys the benefits. I don't think we need to go through their entire press release here. But just to be known, at this point, you are now able to basically get down to the cities, states, that sort of like location-based information or deployment so that you can, you know, obviously deploy closest to your location and have better connections. And also, if you're going to utilize it later to support clients or something like that, you are going to be able to target that geographically. We do have some hardware news, of course. Obviously, tons of hardware news should be coming out. I have not been able to really find much information on the Intel A770 or 750, unfortunately. But first things first, we have the Nvidia Hopper H100 PCIe GPUs. These are server GPUs, and they are now supported in Linux, in the R520 Linux driver. Because yesterday, basically, we had a huge driver dump from Nvidia across the board, right? That is because we had the RTX 4090 series launch. And along with that, also there is basically data center GPU drivers launching as well, or dropping as well. So we do know now that Nvidia has updated its R520 Linux kernel module to 520.61.05. And earlier this morning, which will add support for the Hopper PCIe GPUs. Readers may remember that the Nvidia H100 GPU will be used for artificial intelligent data centers. So if we scroll down, Ada Lovelace is the consumer level GPU to release tomorrow and will fall in the RTX 40 graphics cards. Hopper is the next generation AI GPU to aid in developing advanced technology, sciences, and breakthroughs that the company has planned for this decade. In its recent online presentation, the company laid out all of the advancements it focuses on and new technology introduced in the following year. There will be two board configurations for the Nvidia Hopper, one consisting of the SXM5 board form factor and one that will be a PCIe 5.0 board form factor. That's just going to be the way it plugs in, essentially, for those that are uninitiated. Now, the interesting part here, obviously for us miners, we can drool over this. You know, the price is probably going to be out of our range and, you know, not necessarily cost effective at all, but we could drool over it, right? We're talking about HPM3 with 3 terabytes a second of memory. It says on board, but 3 terabytes a second of memory, right? That would essentially, or bandwidth, that would essentially put you at 3 times the hash rate of an RTX 4090. So what is the RTX 4090 hash rate? Well, I do have that up here for you guys. Let me see if we can go theater mode. There you go. Check out Rapid Mining's video down in the description if you want to get all the information. But we are looking at basically RTX 3090 Ti hash rates as predicted by yours truly. Voila! We got it correct. We are looking at somewhere between 125 to 135 megahash a second at around, 300 watts. That's just pretty much what we're looking at as far as the RTX 4090 hash rates go on Ethereum. Completely expected. Like I said, we kind of called that one. So if we wanted to predict Hopper, if you guys wanted to go over, translate that over to what the Hopper GPU would get, the H100. Yes, that would be 3x. So that would be around 375 megahash a second at presumably it's the same TDP as the 4090 at presumably the same power. So you could be around 300 watts at 375 megahash a second, which actually puts the Hopper GPU pretty damn close to current ASICs, right? So if you were wondering where those ASICs were coming from, it's looking like we might kind of have an idea a little bit. Going further though, as predicted too, we talked about, Caspa getting better hash rates, and he did test Caspa back here. I just wanted to show you guys this so you guys get the idea between the two. Caspa at 2.1 or 2.1 gigahash a second. You guys may not be aware of Caspa hash rates. For those of you that are not on the RTX 3090 and 3090 Ti, we're talking around 1 gigahash. So from a core performance increase, yeah, the 4090's killing it. Go check out the rest of the video for the rest of the hash rates. Those are the only two I'm going to cover. Why? Because I think you should go check out Rabbit, who did the work on the rest of it. So I'm going to not give you guys the rest of the algorithm so that we get you guys to flow over to there. Please wait till after the live stream, if you don't mind. And then I just want to make sure that we support him as well. But I also wanted to point out the two major things on the RTX 4090 that we got right, and that are important when deciding to purchase what GPUs for mining and what, algorithms you think are going to be successful in the future, right? RTX 4090, not good from the memory bandwidth perspective. You might as well go be purchasing 3000 series GPUs. However, if you are looking at spec mining coins that may be core intensive, because remember, the thing about core intensive coins is that they will almost always inevitably end up ASIC. That's basically how that functions, right? So Caspa will end up ASIC. Radiant will end up ASIC. These types of coins will always end up ASIC more than likely, if they become successful, right? And obviously if you're mining it, you're hoping it's going to be successful. But if that was the type of thing you want to do, the RTX 4090 makes a lot of sense. If you're going to be sticking with more core intensive type stuff like Ergo, like Ethereum Classic, you may want to be looking at something different. Now, crypto startups Fabric Systems raises $13 million seed round to provide blockchain hardware. This one's interesting. The funding included participation from the Meta Planet, run by Skype co-founder John Tallinn, Tallinn, blockchain.com, and 8090 Ventures. Every time I see pictures like this, by the way, it bugs me. We got the nice cable racking or whatever, and it always feels like the cable management is just not as clean as you would want it to be. You got all this expensive hardware, immersion cooling all your miners, and then it's just why don't we have uniformed networking cables across the board? You could even do something and then get some Velcro, put it around there, get some, start labeling them. You could label the connectors to the rig so that it was easier to find the rig when you're going to repair it. I don't even see labels on the side here. I'd be marking ASIC 01, ASIC 02. I mean, in this case, ASIC 001, 002. Make it easier to troubleshoot, that sort of thing. It's kind of just, for the amount of work that's put into it, it's you get to the last step and they get lazy. I get it. They're trying to get all the rigs online as fast as possible, but put some pride into your work. You know what I mean, boys? Crypto hardware technology startup Fabric System has raised $13 million in seed equity funding, with the capital to be used to build two products: a liquid-cooled Bitcoin miner and a computer processor for advanced cryptographic algorithms such as zero-knowledge proofs. Now, ZK proofs, this is going to get interesting, huh? Most of the funding is going to be used on the Bitcoin side. Fabric co-founder Michael Gao told CoinDesk some of the funding will be used for pilot experiments in the zero-knowledge proof side. Participating in the round were MetaPlanet, the investment vehicle of Skype co-founder John Tallinn, blockchain.com, and 8090 partners. It's no secret that the bear market hasn't been kind to the Bitcoin miners. Coming out of the downturn, miners will likely require the most efficient form of computers that can mine for crypto, and that's where Fabric's Fabric's new product might fit. Fabric's Bitcoin miner will set a new standard for the industry in terms of energy efficiency, cost, and form factor, according to a statement. Beyond its extremely energy efficient Bitcoin mining chips, it will be the first out-of-box immersion-cooled machine. This is really interesting because, we do have the liquid-cooled machines from Antminer, but, I looked at those. I got to see them kind of in person at the mining conference. You are talking like it's like 16 points of failure just on the outside that you can see. And that's just for the water cooling system, right? So you've added just to water cool it 16 points of failure, which is quite a lot. It's simply insane, as some might say. Gao expects his machines to be in full production and mining at customer facilities by the end of next year. However, Bitcoin mining chip making is no easy task, as the market is mostly controlled by large manufacturers like Bitmain and MicroBT. Speaking of which, if you wanted to compare the new MicroBT liquid-cooled miner to Bitmain's, MicroBT's looks a little bit better. You got a single cold plate. They flattened it out. It's basically like a 1U server. I think a 1U or 2U server with one single input and one single output per liquid-cooled liquid-cooled ASIC. It's really interesting. And it comes in one side, comes out the other side, and it's like one big cold plate, and it will slide into a server rack. To me, it just is way smarter than what Bitmain did. While there have been many false promises of competition, there have been some recent successes. Intel, for instance, has entered the Bitcoin mining market to help provide miners with more efficient and ESG-friendly mining chips to compete with the incumbents. There you go. Bing, bang, boom. There's a reason why they removed the block reward from Ethereum. We've talked about this before. But post-merge, we now have no real-world cost very little. We have a very reduced real-world cost to the minting of new Ethereum. And what that meant is that if Ethereum wants this is hard because who do you target here? Do you target the developers? Probably. What did Ethereum need to maintain price post-merge? It needed to no longer have essentially a block reward, and it needed to go from being inflationary to being deflationary. This is kind of a two-step process. It took two forks, right? The first fork was EIP 1559. What EIP 1559 did was split the fee up into two portions, a tip and a base fee, and a portion of that is burned. The base fee, which is a moving target, it goes up and down, is taken out of the fee that somebody pays and is burned permanently. Burning meaning it's taken and just basically pushed into the ether, pun intended. And then the other portion of that, which is the tip, right, goes to the validator at this point. In this case, the person that's running the node or the two nodes, because you got to run two nodes to do this. But regardless, it doesn't really matter. Whoever is validating the transaction. Okay. So these are the two that you got set up at the end of the day, or the two things that had to get set up at the end of the day. The second one being, of course, the merge, which then removed the 2 ETH block reward, which was the emissions that was going into compensating the GPU miners. So the new validators don't get that block reward at all. Okay. So that means that it goes from an inflationary currency to a deflationary currency. And this is actually required to maintain the price of Ethereum, because you have no real world cost there. So that was why they structured it in the manner that they did. Well, because of this, now we have the first time ever that Ether has become deflationary since the merge. And this is important, right? So the number of tokens fell by 4,000 over the last week as more Ether was burned verifying transactions than was created, the report said. Now, here's the thing, like we've known that the burning's been happening and we know that that 2 block reward was removed. So I'm kind of curious on what they're talking about here. So Ether reached a post-merge milestone this week as it became deflationary for the first time since the Ethereum blockchain switched to proof of stake, crypto exchange Coinbase said in a report on Thursday. It became deflationary as more Ether was burned verifying transactions than was created in the same period, which led to the reduction of 0.13% in supply over the last week, equivalent to about 4,000 tokens, the note said. The rate of new Ether creation has fallen by nearly 90% since the merge, the note added. It should be 100%, but I guess I need to look at this again. If somebody can help me out with this. Last we looked, I could have sworn it was basically there's no new ETH being minted. They took the block reward away. The merge was the first of the 5 upgrades planned for the Ethereum blockchain and involved the transition to a more energy-efficient proof-of-stake consensus mechanism. Some argued that the drop in supply of Ether should have resulted in higher prices, assuming demand stayed constant, but Coinbase noted that the price of the cryptocurrency has fallen by about 4% in the last week. An Ethereum-based token project called Zen, which is one that Gunmuse has been talking about a lot, triggered Ether's deflationary burn rate when it fueled a large spike in the network traffic last week, the report said. And don't worry, Gunmuse, I am looking into Zen. I just don't know enough about it yet. I still haven't read enough. I've been sick. Hawk Mining Crypto is also in the chat, so thanks for stopping by. But overall, what we do know is the plan to make Ethereum deflationary so that it maintains price is working from that perspective. It's not doing what retail thought it would do, which we kind of told them that. We've been saying that for a while, right? What they thought it would do at the end of the day was going to increase the price of Ethereum. That was not the case. And a lot of that is also due to the fact that once you moved miners out, the transactions on the network dropped pretty significantly. And what happens when the transactions on the network drop significantly? Well, the base fee doesn't move as much. So you aren't burning as much because you're not having as much transactions, right? We were talking something like 60 to 80% drop in transactions post mining. Why is that? And that was on, excuse me, let me be clear. That was on specifically side chains, right? And layer 2 solutions, Polygon, Binance Smart Chain, that sort of stuff. The reason why that dropped so much is because miners were using those methods for payouts, okay? And so that was creating that ecosystem between layer 2 and Ethereum and powering it, basically. Miners were powering that ecosystem. That's why all the transactions looked so good, right? You had basically automated free transaction boost that looked really great to retail investors because of miners, and now that's gone. So that's why it's taking so long, I think, for the amount of Ethereum to be burned, right, to get to the point to where it has now, where we're overall deflationary on Ethereum now. Should have happened a lot faster. If you would put the numbers up that, you know, basically the usage numbers up that were happening post-merge and that continued, or pre-merge, and that continued to post-merge, I think you would have seen it hit deflationary much quicker. But Bitcoin sinks after US CPI report shows inflation hotter than expected. Now, we're kind of waiting on this, and then I think we get a quarterly BPS hike. Is that correct? I'm kind of a dummy when it comes to this. That would be coming in December, potentially. I think, right? So right now, what we're getting is the CPI report, which will affect it. And then everybody will know where the BPS hike is going to be around about. But it doesn't matter because once the BPS hike comes out, you know, and they shift that, the price will be affected again because we're all just a bunch of dummies that say, hey, look, we can see exactly what's happening and this is going to happen. Oh no, what we thought was going to happen happened. Bro, like when I say it's a circus, like it really is just kind of a circus, right? Like that's what it's starting to feel like to me. Bitcoin sinks after the US CPI report shows inflation hotter than expected. The core consumer price index, seen as a more steady indicator of inflation, rose 6.6% from a year prior, a 4-decade high. U.S. consumer prices in September slowed from the prior month, the Labor Department reported Thursday, but the inflation rate was still faster than what economists had predicted. Bitcoin tumbled nearly 3% in the minutes after the report to its lowest level since September 21st as of press time. The largest cryptocurrency was changing hands at around 18,400. Well, it's already back up to 19,000. So, every single time this happens, we get an initial boot and then it comes back up and we sit at the exact same price. Do we have to do this again? I guess we do. Let's go ahead and look at it. Bitcoin price since June, right, has not moved. It has not moved significantly. This is what it looks like. Okay. You look at that, compare that to like the Dow Jones. I could pull up the S&P 500, but they're the same. Okay. These don't look the same at all. Why does that matter? Because everybody wants to convince you that Bitcoin is correlated to traditional markets, and it's starting to look like the reality is it's not. The fact of the matter is, yes, the cryptocurrency industry is hurting as a whole, but it is starting to come out to look like a non-greedy way to hedge your bets to a certain extent. Not financial advice, just an interesting observation. But every single time the CPI comes out and we get that little dip, like 5% dip, everybody comes out and is like, oh no, it's the end of the world and crypto's diving down further. I mean, yeah, I guess, but then it just goes up 5% again. All right. Okay. Cool. It doesn't matter though. Inflation is through the roof. The consumer price index, the most widely watched gauge to track inflationary pressure in the U.S., rose 8.2% in September from the same month a year ago, slightly higher than the 8.1% forecasted by economists. The index rose 0.4% from August. The core CPI, which strips out volatile energy and food prices, it is more closely watched by investors and policymakers because it's seen as a more steady indicator of underlying price pressure, rose 0.6%, the same pace as it rose in August, well exceeding expectations. The core CPI rose 6.6% from a year ago to its highest level in 4 decades. But it's okay, guys. It's okay. It's okay. It's fine. Look, nothing to see here. Move along. Where was this one? Oh, here you go. Just so you know, the President of the United States says, I don't think there will be a recession. So it's okay. Plus, we changed the definition of a recession in Wikipedia now, right? So I think we're safe. Let's check the definition, see if we're in a recession now, right? Well, let's just check it real quick. It says a recession is a business cycle contraction when there's a general decline in economic activity. Recessions generally occur when there's a widespread drop in spending. This may be triggered by various events such as a financial crisis, an external trade shock, an adverse supply shock, the bursting of an economic bubble, or a large-scale anthropogenic or natural disaster, such as, e.g., a pandemic. In the United States, a recession is defined as, quote, a significant decline in economic activity spread across the market lasting more than a few months, normally visible in real GDP, real income, employment, industrial production, and wholesale retail sales. The European Union has adopted a similar definition. In the United Kingdom, a recession is defined as a negative economic growth for 2 consecutive quarters. So in the United Kingdom, it remains this. So I don't know, but the U.S. we've changed it a little bit in a few months. It looks like Wikipedia is reading right to me. But it's okay. The president says it's not happening, so it's not happening. Okay? I don't think it's happening. It's fine. It's is the house on fire behind me yet? It's fine, guys. It's fine. Inflation whack-a-mole, because this is what's going on here. When some prices fall, others rise. While prices for gas, which were the main driver for high inflation in recent months, cooled off further. You guys know why that happened, right? Should probably find a, yeah, the BBC is a good one. You guys trust the BBC? Is that good? So that happened because of this. Like, prices in gas went down because Biden orders unprecedented release of oil reserves. Now, this was like the reserves were created in the 70s because of the big gas shortage that happened back then. So you do have to consider the fact that we do come back around, and you got to pay the piper on that one, right? That's okay. Health insurance, for example, was up 28% year over year, which is the largest increase ever. Well, you can't get health care in the U.S. anyways unless you're a millionaire, so that's fine. Similarly, groceries were 13% more expensive than a year ago, and rent prices surged 7.2%, the highest in 4 decades. And even though gas prices slightly fell in September, economists expect energy to pick up again in the coming months as the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries announced it would cut production by 2 million barrels a day, which might drive up prices again. It will drive up prices again, plus we won't have any reserves left. The reserve release, in my humble opinion, is just for midterm elections. So, not financial advice, right? But I would expect... well, I mean, what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do about it anyways. Let's be honest. But not financial advice. Gas prices will go up again after midterm elections. And probably exceed where they were at now. Or where they were at previously. Here. Investors should be attentive to continued divergence in direction between headline and core measures as compared to prior periods. Michael Wise, president of Yield Street, said, core categories such as housing costs tend to be stickier in terms of price movements and can give insight into future inflation expectations. Central bankers have raised interest rates 5 times this year so far by 300 basis points or 3 percentage points in an effort to bring inflation down to 2%, but they have a long way to go. In a survey conducted by Bankrate, 43% of economists said they think that inflation hasn't peaked yet and will be more significant over the next 12 to 18 months. According to the minutes from the September meeting of the Rate-Setting Federal Open Market Committee, which were released on Wednesday, central bankers indicated that they expect rates to be high until prices come down sharply. Quote, they had raised their assessment of the path of the federal funds rate that would likely be needed to achieve the committee's goals, according to the document, with inflation showing little signs so far of abating. Bitcoin, which has fallen dramatically this year, could stay under pressure as traders fret over the prospect of further steep interest rate hikes by the Federal Reserve on November 1st to 2nd, when the FOMC meets next. So, what we are seeing, obviously, is inflation, record high inflation, but not according, of course, to the U.S. president. So that's okay. We also have more news. Speaking of, look, energy is energy. Energy is a thing. And energy is what runs the country. It's what runs the world, obviously. Like I've always said, I've brought this up, the success of a society is based on the amount of energy it can utilize and how efficiently it can utilize it, right? And that is, no different when we start talking about state level. Of course, Texas being in a unique position to where it does have its own grid. It is not connected externally to any of the rest of the grid in the United States. It puts it in a very unique position, especially when it comes to Bitcoin mining. And now what we're seeing is kind of a federal probe, let's call it a federal probe into how Bitcoin mining energy use is in Texas. And it is, you know, as you can tell from the title, I consider this, my bias on this is that I consider this a little bit of bias from their side as well. So you'll see here that U.S. Senator Warren leads congressional group's probe into Bitcoin mining energy use in Texas. 7 Democrats from both the Senate and House are asking Texas grid operator ERCOT how Bitcoin mining is impacting the state. This seems quite innocuous, right? Like it's like they're just asking how it's impacting the state. But what you'll see here is a lot of clever wording, a lot of political shifting, like however you want to say it, they're trying to guide the conversation into this is bad for the grid. When in fact, like if we look at like energy consumption, what happened during the winter storms pre-Bitcoin mining, right? We saw the grid go down, you know, money funding wasn't there to winterize properly, all that sort of stuff. And then we move into post-Bitcoin mining Texas. We have the hottest summer ever and the grid remains stable. That is my anecdotal evidence as being a Texan to basically in response to what's going on here or what these queries are about. But let's get into it. A group of 7 Democratic lawmakers in Washington, D.C., led by Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, are looking into the energy usage and carbon emissions of the Bitcoin mining industry in Texas, as well as the impact on the grid and local consumers. In a letter Wednesday addressed to Pablo Vegas, the CEO of Electricity Reliability Council of Texas, ERCOT, the group expressed concerns that Bitcoin mining's enormous demand for energy in Texas is straining the state's grid, adversely impacting consumers and U.S. climate goals. The only one where I might say yes would be the consumers. And I still need to get verification on this. I was actually kind of talking to people about it because I'm curious. Because it doesn't seem to be statewide, right? As far as like power companies are not charging this to every single individual, but there are some additional fees that appear to be putting in that are refunding, of course, the miners for turning off their operations, and that cost in some locations is getting passed on to the consumer. That is a true thing that is happening. And I think that should be looked into because I do not think that is right. Yeah, like it's just, I don't think that it's fair. That being said, you know, does it stabilize the grid? Would you have to pay for that in another state if you were renting or borrowing or paying for basically buying electricity from another state? Yes, that would get passed down to the consumer. So is it much different than what is already being done? No. Should it be different? Possibly, yes. It should be possibly different. Crypto mining is adding significant demand to an unreliable grid and contributing to the global climate crisis, claim the lawmakers, who further assert miners are benefiting at the expense of consumers from huge ERCOT subsidies in the form of demand response agreements. So-called demand response programs mean that when demand for energy across the grid is high, miners power down their operations in exchange for energy credits that they can use in the future, thus releasing power back to the struggling grid. About 1 gigawatt of mining powered down this summer as heat waves swept across the state. The Democratic lawmakers see things differently. Quote, in simple terms, the Bitcoin miners make money from mining that produces major strains on the electric grid. And during peak demand, when the profitability of continuing to mine decreases, they then collect subsidies in the form of demand response payments when they shut off their mining operations and do nothing. And my friends, that is, oh man. So we had this conversation. I think you want to go check out my video with Vaccaro, Mr. Vaccaro here, talking about this one in particular. There is a huge, basically, here's the way it works, just so you understand. The power that the Bitcoin miners are utilizing that then they provide back to the grid when they shut down would not be there without the Bitcoin miners. Like, the funding would not be there without the Bitcoin miners. It would be like, and in addition to that, if they weren't there, let's say they spun this all up, they helped build the infrastructure, they paid for it, that sort of thing, and then regulation pushes them out and they quit. What happens to all that excess power? It gets wasted, right? So you're either going to have waste or you're going to be able to monetize that and also have a good shut-off program that provides power back to the grid. Essentially, what would happen if you guys ever played SimCity, right? You play SimCity, you build the city up too big, then part of the city goes down. What ends up happening, you have less people to work the power plants. The power plant shuts down. And if you have a nuclear energy power plant, well, then the whole city's fucked, right? It's not dissimilar. You can't just, you build out all this infrastructure. You have miners using that infrastructure. That infrastructure basically is providing energy to the miners and to the rest of the consumers. Then you have the Bitcoin mining industry leave abruptly because of regulation or whatever. Then you have basically a whole bunch of excess energy, not as many people to upkeep, of course, this infrastructure that now nobody needs because there's not enough people there to support it, except in very small use case times in like the heat of the summer or the very, very cold of the winter, which is what we're trying to stabilize, right? That's the entire point of it. Then it just goes defunct and all that equipment is wasted, and you just have a dystopia again. It's not dissimilar to what like you can see what happens when industry falls apart in places like Detroit, right? And so on. Like this isn't rocket science. You can just go play a game like SimCity and figure it out, right? I don't know. It's ridiculous. Bitcoin miners flocked to Texas following a ban to the industry in China last year, the largest hub for crypto mining in the world, due to its seemingly abundant energy and friendly regulation. There are now about 1.5 gigawatts of crypto mining in Texas, with another 5 gigawatts set to connect to the grid by the end of 2023. According to the local industry association and lobbying group Texas Blockchain Council, I got to meet those guys, which is super cool. ERCOT said that it had 33 gigawatts worth of applications from miners on its desk, but the TBC said that includes some double counting. At any rate, ERCOT has slowed down application approvals as it tries to figure out in detail how miners can be integrated into the grid. Besides Warren, the letter was signed by Senators Sheldon Whitehouse, Democrat out of Rhode Island, Edward Markey, Democrat out of Massachusetts, Al Green, Democrat out of Texas, Katie Porter, Democrat out of California, Jared Huffman, Democrat out of California, and Rashida Tlaib, Democrat out of Michigan. It's but the latest salvo from Warren against Bitcoin and the miners over environmental and other concerns. Last year, she spoke out against Greenbridge Generation, a natural gas-powered Bitcoin miner in New York State, which eventually saw its air permits denied. And yeah, we've talked about that one before. In fact, we talked about that with Mr. Vaccaro. So if you want more information on that, go check that video out. Let's get into mining profitability, or the lack thereof, for the day, right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is BT Miners. Purchasing mining equipment online can be dangerous. With all of the fake storefronts and scams, it can be hard to find a reliable source. That's why when BT Miners reached out for a channel sponsorship, I started by verifying that ordering and delivery went smoothly with the purchase of my own. If you are looking to purchase ASICs hardware from Bitcoin to Dogecoin miners, they are available for purchase on bt-miners.com. BT Miners is a trusted source by both ASICMinerValue.com and CryptoMiner.com. Follow the affiliate link in the description and tell them SOT sent you to support the channel. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I'm going to encourage you to tickle that like button if you don't mind. We're at, we were at 200 concurrent viewers and now we're down to 191. But if you tickle that like button, I'd like to get over 100 likes for the day. And there will be some serious conversation about whether or not I'm going to continue this show or not. So we'll be talking about that later on as well. At least at the amount that we're doing it, because it's clear that it's not exactly something that's wanted anymore. So I don't know if I really care to do it if it's not wanted. But we'll get into that later. It's definitely not helping the channel out. That's for sure. So let's go take a look at what to mine. Bing, bang, boom. We're at 10 cents a kilowatt hour with ZIL hash at 110 solutions a second, Kapow at 55, ProgPal at 55, and Firo proof of work at 55. Everything is unprofitable. You're losing the least amount of money mining, of course, Flux, as usual. And then the worst offenders, if we scroll down, are like Ethereum Classic losing 46 cents a day. I think Ethereum proof of work even fell further. Yeah, down to 48 cents a day. So there is that. If we move on, though, from there, let's look at all of the hash rate. And obviously, Bitcoin says like down 10% over the past 7 days. I think it was back up already. Yeah, so actually, let's refresh this because it's not refreshing, but this is inaccurate. I wouldn't worry about it too much. We are down a few exahash today, though, from 263 exahash a second to 260 exahash a second on Bitcoin. Let's take a look at Ethereum. We got Ethereum Classic at 162 terahash a second, Ethereum Proof of Work at 42 terahash a second, and Ethereum Fair at 6 terahash a second. If we go from there, let's look. We would have, Flux? Probably around 8 mega solutions a second. No, we have definitely had a huge drop off in hash rate on Flux. The network hash rate was maintaining at 8 mega solutions a second yesterday. It's showing 6.55. Pools are reporting a 7.32. Flux has lost some hash rate over the past few days. Take a look at Ergo. We're expecting 50 terahash a second. Still sitting right there. You know, it has dropped. We saw some peaks earlier last week at like 60. That was like after the changes and so on. And I think we're settling into like that 50 to somewhere between 50 and 60 terahash a second. The difficulty is definitely like smoothed out a ton. So EIP 37 definitely helped out with all of that. Take a look at Ravencoin. Wow, down 20% over the past 7 days. I didn't realize it dipped so hard. 17.5 terahash a second reported by the pools. Neox are down 24% at 2 terahash a second. Then we could look at something like Caspa, some of the small ones. 186 terahash a second. Down 11% over the past 7 days. And what else do we got? I think that's going to be it. ASIC miner profitability. We have the Antminer L7 at $1.58 a day on Doge. It shows mining rig rentals at $684 a day. For some reason, I'm thinking that is inaccurate. The Antminer D7 at $9.46 a day on Dash. Basically, I think the Antminer L7's not as profitable as this is showing. Doge had a huge hit this week. iPolo G1 at $8.82 a day on Grin. Not looking too bad. Antminer Z15 at basically $7.88 a day on NiceHash. The Gold Shell HS3 at $6.08 a day on Handshake. I need to move my Handshake miner off of Poolin. Remind me to do that today, guys, if I can. I also got to get this chip shipped out. I'm feeling a little better today. I think I can get more stuff done today. iPolo V1 Classic, $2.17 a day on, it looks like what, Ethereum Classic? Yeah. Scrolling down, S19 Pro. Where are you, baby? There's the Pro. Gosh darn, boys. Gosh darn. Gosh darn it. I mean, $0.10 a kilowatt hour. It's losing 37 cents a day. That's rough, dude. I actually want to go watch. Did you guys watch the video for Voscoin? I think I'm going to react to that later because I'm curious how he's feeling on building out that Bitcoin mining shed right now. I'm curious. I understand, like, I think, isn't Bits is behind the meter, right? He's going to be in a lot better position because of the amount of capital behind that project too, I think. But Vosk is going to be in front of meter. I'm curious how that's going for those guys. Definitely need to kind of also make sure, guys, right now, reach out to people especially in the industry right now. Make sure everybody's doing okay, doing good. I started talking a little bit more about mental health, and I am getting some DMs. So thanks everybody that's reached out. As well as I think I talked to some people at the show and stuff like that, the conference. Look, man, this isn't like a normal bear market either, because last bear market sucked, but this is a lot worse, and it's a lot worse because we have skyrocketing prices like inflation. It's difficult for a lot of people out there. So I hope all y'all are doing good too. If you want to reach out to me, you can. Also, just keep in mind, I'll tell you guys, straight up, I've used the services. Don't be afraid to utilize things like BetterHelp, suicide hotlines, any of that sort of stuff. Don't be afraid to do it. Don't be afraid to message me either. Okay. I think things are going to get a little rough. Like I said, as far as cryptocurrencies is concerned, I think it's inevitable. I still do. I think right now is also a good chance to take a look and be refocus what the actual goals are. As far as it pertains to cryptocurrency, it's a good chance to get back to the fundamentals. It's a good chance to learn, and it's a good chance to potentially capitalize, right? Because the world is inevitably changing right now. I don't know if you guys can feel it. I can definitely feel it. The world's changing. It is moving into this digital space. This is kind of maybe not the final transformation, but the financial portion, moving into the digital age is one of the last steps that kind of is inevitable to take place. Now, whether that goes the direction I want it to go or not, I don't have much control over that. I can try to influence it as much as I can with obviously the audience and you guys watching and talking about ideas. But the end positive there though is that regardless, you have some opportunity because you can see it, right? You can see the shift happening. And two, it's just exciting to watch. Yeah, it's a little painful, but it is exciting to watch. Let's get into questions and answers, and then we will end it on that. Remember, super chats are never required, always appreciated. First to be answered because they're the easiest to read. Tagging @SonOfATech will highlight the message orange, making it easier to read. And super stickers, I was told by the YouTube rep that no longer talks to me. Just, hey buddy, what's going on? You wanna set up another meeting? That the super stickers boost the algorithm the most. And then if you guys don't mind, just, if you enjoy the show, share the content out. Let me know what portions you want clipped and stuff like that in the comment section. And I'll let hopefully Metal Miner, if you're watching, check down below, because I think if the audience picks the clips, I think that we'll have a better time. Chadwick says, that's not a tech. I trust no one anymore. It's probably about time. I could see that. Detroit Irish said, we sold reserves to China. Well, and we did a lot. It doesn't, you don't even have to sell the reserves to know that the problem is a huge influx of reserves, and then no reserves after midterm elections means higher gas prices, right? That's all that means. And look, before you guys get into Dem versus Republicans on that front, the Republicans would have emptied a portion of the reserves too. Maybe not Trump. I don't know, because I know he did refill the reserves. I can't for sure state that. as a matter of fact. But if it was any other Republican trying to win an election, this is par for the course. You dump the reserves, you drop the gas prices low, you try to get the populace to be happy with you so that you get their vote. That's just par for the course, man. Chadwick says, how is pot growing impacting your electric grid? We're in Texas. I think it doesn't impact it at all because it's still illegal. But I could be completely wrong. Look, in Texas, we use the sun to grow weed in the ditch. At least that's what we used to do. Now I have no idea what's going on. They're doing all this crazy stuff and the weed's too strong, so I don't do it anymore. Dennis says, that son of a tech, can you add your Flux address for donations? I can add my Flux address to the description maybe for tomorrow. Show back up tomorrow. You guys showing up for the shows, like obviously donations are great. And you guys on locals, by the way, sonofatech.locals.com. That's like been a very nice cushion for me to, I think, what's the best way to say this? Come down softly. Come down softly. Patrick says, as I'm a tech, I wonder, do my S9s have higher resale or scrap value? Interesting question. I'd have to ask an ASIC guy for that. I think that a lot of guys are taking those S9s, though, into different areas. Patrick bringing up the 3. I'm going to ignore it, though, but I do see it. Wild T. Wilson, thanks for the $10 super sticker. Boosting that algorithm. Matthew says, for sure, the best crypto news channel, hands down, but who is son of a tech and what is he currently up to? Currently trying to fight off COVID, my man. I think we're doing a good job. Pequan, thank you for the trust. I appreciate it. Hopefully I maintain that. Andrew Ferguson says, ask son of a tech, have you checked out Apex Cash? I have. Interesting white paper and roadmap. Is it Ixie? Ixie, Spixie, Spider? Spixie? No, Ixie's the one that I've been doing lately. Ixie up 63%. Hell yeah. I think only Chadwick knows about Ixie. Elm says, at Tech, is there a way of checking general GPU hash rates like from all coins together? What do you mean? That's like what to mine? I think. Pequan says, at Tech, are you still mining Radiant? Whatever the answer, can I ask why? Yes, and because a community member spun up a pool, and I think it's one of their first pools, so they were testing it out, and I pointed at it just to test it out with them. That's pretty much it. No real reason. Supporting the community, which is the best reason right now. Tommy says, ask Tech, I may not always be here when the show is live, but I always watch the show. Best news channel and no show coverage of the crypto space, hands down. Yeah, it's just if we get to the point to where I can't afford to do it, I can't afford to do it. I don't know. I don't really know how I'm going to afford anything right now. I don't know. It's hard to talk about because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing right now. I just don't. I need to get first things first is I need to get over COVID, and then, which now my cough is gone for the most part. I have a little bit of phlegm, but the only thing that sucks is like my back is like, I can't move my back. Like I can't walk around for whatever reason. So I've been like super sore. Everything else seems to be good. I'm just still testing positive. Gandalf says, as Summertech decided not to get scammed on eBay by the CMP 90HX guy, but in my haste, I bought some 6900 XTs on Amazon. Was it a good purchase? 625 to 675. I don't know, man. I don't know. Aren't they like cheaper than that new now? Didn't we just talk about that? They're like 689 brand new. Or did you buy them brand new? Tommy says, was inspired by Louis Roseman's recent videos about ad blockers since I use them and supporting creators. So I subbed to you on Locals, first creator I've actually paid for. Thank you, Tommy T. That means a lot for sure. Yeah, I'm trying to get the Locals to a point to where my family can survive off of. And then, you know, I will have to make the video, but like, I think you guys are all aware, the farm's fucking failed. Like, the farm's failed. We got to make a video on the farm being failed, and then I have to come up with an action plan, right? The action plan is difficult. I have some options for hosting. I need to talk to those guys. I think we're going to have them on the channel too. Hosting's probably an option. And then I have to decide if I'm going to just have to like file bankruptcy or come up with an extra $1,720 a month to pay rent and just turn everything off at the farm. I think the YouTube ad revenue is pretty much done. I think Gun Muse, you were correct. It looks like, at tops we're like it looks like we're going down to like doing like $30 to $40 a day in ad revenue, maybe. Something like that. Once I get a little bit better, lately I've just been sleeping a lot. Like I do the live show and then I sleep. So it's kind of where I'm at. Gandalf says, that's Tech. Is there a new Asus Tough and Mercs? They are the new Asus Tough and Mercs. Yeah. Those are the two that were on sale. Chadwick says, that's Tech. Have any good news? I have COVID right now too. Oh, when it rains, it pours. Yeah, no, I feel you. Like I had E. coli, and then I had strep, and then I got pneumonia, and then I had like 2 weeks, like 2 weeks where I thought I was recovering, trying to get back into working out. I had some hip problems, and then it was like, boom, hit this up. But is what it is. Patrick says, have you done any data center? Yeah, lots of data center build outs. Back in the day. Lots of racking and stacking. I probably don't have that left in me anymore. It looks like I have arthritis in my hips. So we're going to get that solved hopefully here soon too. I don't know. I got to go back to the therapist. Gandalf says, that's Tech. Let's start the first non-biased crypto news channel we can. Call it Bits O News. We already got a crypto channel. Or I already got one. Chadwick says that Tech Universe is telling you something. You know, or God or whatever. Yeah, we could always say that. That is true. Dr. Frog had COVID and hemorrhoids at the same time. That's pretty rough. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, just getting into this is kind of chat that we probably throw over on Twitch. I'm going to take a little bit of break. Go ahead and hit the like, comment, subscribe, and notification bells down below. And we will be live on Twitch maybe a little bit later. I'm feeling a little bit better today, but I am like sweating a lot. I'll see you next Tuesday.